The 15th Doctor is about to start his first full season, but before he does, let's catch up with his adventures so far in this series, which aims to cover every story released featuring Ncuti's Doctor, and charts where it all slots into his timeline. Welcome to the first 15th Doctor Canon Catchup. In this series, I aim to cover every TV episode, book, comic, short story, audio adventures if they arrive, basically anything that is fiction and features the 15th Doctor, and try and keep track of where it all fits in his timeline based on clues in the stories themselves. In this episode, we have almost everything that's been released pre the launch of Season 1 on the 11th of May 2024. So that's his 2 TV appearances so far, and his first adventure within the Doctor Who magazine comic. Let's get started, shall we? The Giggle. We first met the 15th Doctor towards the end of The Giggle, the third of the 60th anniversary specials, when the 14th Doctor was hit by the galvanic beam fired by the Toymaker, but instead of regenerating, he bi-generated, effectively splitting in two, the surviving 14th Doctor and the new 15th Doctor. The Doctors themselves indicated they thought bi-generation was a myth, and it could therefore be inferred that it was because of the Toymaker's presence, allowing reality to not act like it normally does, that allowed this myth to become a reality, although that is never explicitly said on screen. The two Doctors together defeat the Toymaker by challenging and beating the Toymaker in a rather athletic game of catch. 15 uses his prize for beating the Toymaker to duplicate the TARDIS by hitting it with a really big mallet, as you do, meaning that both him and 14 could both have their own TARDISes. He bids farewell to 14 and his friends and heads off into the vortex, not wearing any trousers. Until the next time we see him, the church on Ruby Road. Now, nowhere in the 2023 Christmas special of Doctor Who does it tell you how long it's been for the Doctor since the events of The Giggle. It could be the next day, it could be a month later, it could be 100 years later from his perspective. We just don't know, which is great because it leaves a nice big gap for future expanded media to take place in. But for now, in this Christmas Day special, the Doctor, while investigating mischievous goblins that thrive on coincidence and eat babies, encounters Ruby Sunday for the first time when the goblins steal her new foster sister, Lulabelle. The goblins are referred to as being part of the Toymaker's Legion that crossed over universes with him. And given the trailers for Season 1, it looks like we may get more entities like that. The Doctor and Ruby pair up to rescue the baby using intelligent, Mavity-defining gloves and the power of song. And yes, I did say Mavity, because when the 14th Doctor and Donna accidentally, let's say, nudged history by crashing into Sir Isaac Newton's tree in Wild Blue Yonder, the resulting change to language seems to have stuck. The goblins, not to be deterred, go back in time to instead steal Ruby as a baby, erasing her from the present where the Doctor is. Ruby was left on the doorstep of a church, the church on Ruby Road of the title, as a newborn by a mysterious woman in a black hooded cloak. The novelisation of the episode, written by Ezzy Jakimi Pearson, explicitly says this figure is Ruby's mother. It is from this doorstep that the goblins plan to steal Ruby, and this all happens in 2004, according to the novelisation. Of course, the Doctor goes back and rescues baby Ruby, returning her to the doorstep for the priest to find, and history to play out as it previously did. The Doctor sees the cloaked figure but doesn't approach her, letting her walk off instead. Back in the present day, Ruby has been restored and works out the Doctor's a time traveller. She runs out to the TARDIS in the street and enters, ready for adventure. A couple of other things we learn from this story is that Kara, Ruby's adoptive mum, not only knows of units, but also seems to know that they chase monsters, or at least she does in the novelisation, implying that not only is UNIT well known, I mean how could it not be, with that not so subtle skyscraper, but its full purpose is potentially too. Then there's Mrs. Flood, Ruby's next door neighbour, who at the end of the episode breaks the fourth wall to address the audience and say,
"Never seen a TARDIS before."
Lots more to find out about her in the future. So, what's next? Mancopolis. Starting in issue 599 of Doctor Who magazine, this 5-part comic story, Mancopolis, finds the Doctor and Ruby arrive in the Manchester of 2424 at 9:54am. From the various Season 1 trailers we've had, it looks like the first episode of Season 1, Space Babies, may be immediately following on from the Church on Ruby Road. So does this story follow on from that? We'll have to see if it fits once the episodes come out. Manchester is, of course, Ruby's home city, so she's pleased to be there, but it's not the Manchester she knew. Mancopolis is a rebuilt, walled metropolis with every glistening building named after a notable person from Manchester's past. It sits surrounded by the Waste Midlands, which was all caused apparently by a vague The Event that happened in 2399. It's run by Mayor Mulberry, who, based on the fact that she punishes her deputy for whistleblowing to the Galactic Central Exchange by teleporting him to be eaten by moth larvae, we can safely say she's not very nice. Underneath Mancopolis is all of the buildings of Old Manchester where some citizens sneak down to party. The city is patrolled both by the Care Force, a police-type force making sure everyone is at least pretending to be happy, and the Weatherbots, clouds with faces which rain on anyone sad and act as a defence against incursions from above into the city. The mayor, it turns out, is a giant moth creature in disguise, abducting young partiers to skin them and turn their skins into spacesuits to sell on the galactic market. Ruby is abducted for this purpose, but of course the Doctor saves her, assisted by Care Officer Z7671. Together, they then all expose the mayor's scheme using body cam footage and lead the workers in a revolt. Not to be taken down lightly though, the mayor attacks this revolt with her weatherbots mirroring the Peterloo massacre in Manchester of 1819, where working class crowds flooded the streets of Manchester to demand the vote and were butchered by the Royal Cavalry. But destroying the mayor's wrist-based control device deactivated the weatherbots and meant that when she teleported to escape, her own moth babies didn't identify her and ate her, just like they had her deputy. The Galactic Adjudicators land, and they were going to claim the city as payment of the mayor's debts, but the Doctor convinces them that Ruby, due to £20 left in her bank account in 2023, and several centuries of interest, is the richest person alive and will crash the economy if they don't write off the debt. So, hooray! Mancopolis is finally free. So, this is the 15th Doctor's timeline so far. Lots more stories to add in the future months though, including a Titan Comics free comic book day issue that should be released the day this video drops, so sorry I couldn't include it. But don't forget to subscribe below to not miss the next episode of the Canon Catchup, where we'll cover all of that and more. And in the meantime, why not check out the two 14th Doctor Canon Catchups by clicking on screen now. I'll see you soon. Goodbye.